Hi to anyone who may be watching. I've been going back and forth deciding if I want to start a channel or not. And I think what I've decided is I'm going to start randomly uploading IGTVs. Maybe like reviews of the show. The show meaning Drag Race. Because that seems to be what some people have commented on. Like, I'll say something and someone's like, oh, I haven't heard anyone say that. Or I've had some comments. So for the second video, I was going to do Q&A, but I haven't really had any questions yet. But what I have had is some thoughts on, I'm filming this on Friday, so on tonight's episode of season 13, Drag Race. I'm gonna say Canada's Drag Race. And one of my main thoughts is about Candy. I've seen some comments, and let's just talk about what happened. From what it looks like, from somebody who experiences both panic attacks and anxiety attacks, looks like she had an anxiety attack and she's not used to them, so she didn't know how to react to it, which is normal, especially if you don't have them often. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who can relate, or who, watching the show, could see exactly the moment where it started. At least from what we saw on the show. It may have started sooner, and we just didn't see. But, no, I have seen some people saying how, she just called for the medic for attention, and for screen time, and whatever. That's clearly not what happened. What happened was heart rate, and which we saw, both her heart rate and her blood pressure were both up crazy amount, which is something to worry about. And in the moment, she could tell something's wrong. I'm gonna call a medic just in case, because especially since she was feeling lightheaded, high blood pressure, and high heart rate is a reason to be very cautious. So she did the best thing possible in the moment. She called the medic and left. Amazing. The thing that I am kind of wondering why they did what they did was, I know it was with love and support and genuinely caring about Candy, but should Simone have walked outside? I don't think so. Mainly because Candy seeing Simone, knowing that Simone did good, could have made it worse. And especially since we don't know how Candy does with anxiety attacks, it probably wasn't the best idea for Simone to go outside and check on her. At least at that moment. When Candy came back in, obviously ask her, hey, how are you feeling? From like a medical point of view, how are you feeling? Also, for anyone who wants to send Candy hate or whatever for saying how, like, she just wants attention, think of this. You go do what she does. It takes so much to be able to do what they do. And like, Simone touched on it a little bit tonight also. And I did say I would do a full video about this, but I'll dabble in it a little bit. I don't think any queens that are related should be on seasons back to back. Because, as Simone touched on it tonight, Gigi made it to top 4. Top 3. Top 4, top 3, same difference. Gigi did amazing. But that means Simone, even though Gigi isn't part of House of Avalon, Simone has so much pressure to do well because Gigi did well in the previous season. Rosé's on kind of an opposite boat, where Jen was just smooth sailing. But I can pretty much assume and think that I'm right in thinking this, but because Jen was so safe, Rosé must have been feeling so much stress at the beginning to do well and to do better than Jen, not to beat Jen. That's not the point. But to show that like Stephanie's child is amazing, which is also why I love Laguna. Laguna is actually the reason that I like Rosé and Jen. But Laguna, I feel like will do, because of stress, will not do good on season 14. Season 15, season 16, yes, she'll kill it. She's amazing. But season 14, really? Jen was on 12, Rosé's on 13, Laguna on 14? Really? There's especially if Rosé wins in, 3 weeks? There's gonna be so much stress on Laguna to do well. And yes, you can say, like, I'm somebody who keeps the show separate from, the queen separate from the show. And yes, you can say Laguna is really talented and really strong and this and that and whatever. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, look back on history, or her history. No queen that's ever gone after a sister, mother, or a family member, I guess it's just sister mothers, has ever done well, or has said nothing about their family. I know this might be a little controversial to talk about, but prime example is Alaska season 5. She was so in her head because her boyfriend had just won the previous season. I know that's not the same thing, really, but Jen did pretty well. So she's like, let's make like a chart. She's here. Rosé is like here right now. Laguna could top out, but if Laguna ends up being here, so Jen's here, Laguna's here for season 14. Everyone better, for I don't want to say for Jen's sake, but nobody better forget about the Jen to see. Because Jen's now 2 seasons behind where Laguna is. And at this point, looking into the future, Laguna will be so much more memorable than Jen was. Are we going to forget about Jen? Are we going to think she isn't as good as her sisters? That's something that I kind of think about, and especially why I keep the show and the queen separate. And that's also why I don't think it benefits anyone from being on a season immediately after a sister or a mother or a partner. And we saw a prime example of that tonight with Candy. And she even talked about both her sister and her mother. She mentioned mother, but whatever. Anyways, she talked about both Dahlia and Aja. And Dahlia had no wins because she was the first one out, but she was very memorable due to Fierce Black Ally. And then Aja did decent on their season, and then proceeded to do, I don't want to say mediocre, but less than extraordinary, I guess is the right terminology, on All Stars. Candy has the pressure to do better than Dahlia and to either live up to Aja's ranking, which is 8th place, I think, and or do better than Aja. But with calling the medic, that was a good thing. And I know, like, comparing, this is the 3rd time that we've seen a panic attack or anxiety attack or whatever you want to call it happen on the main stage. Or on the show. Twice on the main stage, once in Untucked. The 2 on the main stage was Max, that just did not go well. And then Juicebox was also on the main stage. Yes, Juicebox is Canada's Drag Race. But I don't think we saw anyone, but I'm pretty sure there was a medic there with Juicebox during the panic attack. Juicebox was able to say, I feel the panic attack coming on. And immediately did what she needed to do to get everything back to normal. Candy, it did take a little longer. But with Juicebox, they got her water. And luckily, Rita was standing right next to her with that huge cape she was wearing. So she was able to take the cape and kind of cover to kind of help Juice feel safer in a way, which helps a lot of people who are having panic attacks and anxiety attacks. So, long story short, Candy's really stressed out. You do what she does. If you think she overreacted, or you think, and this is about any queen, or you think that they are really bad for one reason or another, because of something they said, or they didn't bring their all, you go in their position. You do what they do. And don't get stressed out. Don't feel like you're in what do some queens call it? A pressure cooker. Because it's legit a pressure cooker. That's why Heidi freaked out in season 12. Like, that's why a lot of the pressure stuff happens, is due to the fact that it's a pressure cooker. Everything's happening so fast. I know a lot of people like listening to Raw Dog or what's it called? Oh my gosh, I can't think what it's called. Monet and Bob's podcast. I can't think what it's called. A Sibling Rivalry. I know a lot of people listen to those, and I'll tune in once in a while, but I prefer listening to, like, Review with the Jew when that was happening, and Fierce Like Talk, because those podcasts and those videos, they actually talk to the queens, and you hear exactly what's happening. So, like, with Joe Black, for example, in Fierce Like Talk, Joe Black comes back for after Veronica is unable to return. Joe Black comes back. Joe says on the podcast, which unless you listen to the podcast and listen to what was said, you would not know. Joe was in such a, I don't want to say desperate, I forget what he said, but so money tight that a lot of the later runways he sold during that time off. Was not expecting to come back to the show. So the UK Hun was literally a quick last minute thing because he only had 3 weeks to know that he was returning, or had a possibility of returning, along with Cherry and Estina. And then also his main stage too was trying to find it after getting rid of parts of it. You don't know what's coming. It is such a pressure cooker. Jada season 12 did amazing. Obviously, she won the season. Spoiler alert, she won. But due to Tamisha being unable to be on season 12 and getting an invite to season 13, Jada, was invited to season 12. She had, I think she said 4 weeks, while everyone else on the season had 12 weeks to prepare, something like that.